Hey guys, Cody with CJC Off-Road. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a video on how to improve your Ram's ride quality. Now we're going to start at $0 a budget and move up from there. We get a ton of questions and we do a ton of videos highlighting some very expensive and very cool setups for your truck. But we also realize that not everyone has $15,000 to spend on a suspension setup. And if we just bought, say, our first HD truck and jumped in it, took the wife for a drive and realized just how terrible it rode and how uncomfortable it was, what would be some very simple and very affordable solutions to improve the ride quality and just get this truck to be a little bit more enjoyable around town. Starting this video off, we're gonna go with the $0 solution to improving your ride quality, and that is gonna be your tire's air pressure. Now, if you have a newer Ram, chances are it came with 65 PSI in the front tires, 80 PSI in the rear tires, and the truck yells at you if you deviate from that. That is because the manufacturer has put such an extreme payload and towing capacity on these trucks. They need your tire to be at max PSI for that all legally to work out and for that to for the truck to safely haul that level of weight. However, 99.9% of us are not driving these trucks around town at maxed out payload, and that is where letting a little bit of pressure out of the tires is actually going to yield for a much more comfortable ride experience around town, on the highway, and especially when you hit dirt roads, gravel roads, and things like that. Now, we do have a very specific video that dives into how to set the proper pressure, the proper air pressure in your tires for overall ride comfort. And that's gonna be a separate video that's linked below. But essentially what you can look at is the fact that your rear tires can hold almost 4,000 pounds each. That is almost 8,000 pounds of capacity in the rear end of a truck that maybe weighs 4,000 pounds. So you can see where you can drop that pressure, the equivalent percentage, and get a much more comfortable ride around town. If you don't believe me, try it out. It's a free option and you can go for a drive and just see how much better the truck feels. Now, another thing I want to mention, if you already have aftermarket tires on your truck and you're still running 65 PSI on the front, 80 PSI in the rear, there's a 90% chance your rear tires are actually overinflated past what the tire manufacturer states. So you want to basically work from there. Again, if your max pressure is 65 PSI, you're going to want to dip below that pressure to get a more comfortable ride because, again, driving around town and casually using your diesel truck, your tires do not need to be at max pressure, and it will make for a much more enjoyable experience. Furthermore, for those of you with aftermarket tires, you probably already did notice an immediate ride improvement because getting a little bit more rubber and air between you and the road is just going to yield a little bit better ride quality. So say you just want one metric size up over stock, a little bit wider tire, you drop that tire to the proper pressure, it's actually gonna be much more comfortable compared to your OEM tires at even a lower pressure. So keep that in mind. Again, going off highway, you can even let a lot more air out of your tires. So the videos you see us jump in the trucks, believe it or not, we're jumping these trucks with 18 PSI in the tires. There's no concerns about blowing the beads. We've been doing this 13 years and it has yet to happen on a single one of our filming trips. So yeah, there's a ton of different applications which will result in you running a different tire pressure. So I never want to give a blanket statement in a video that you need to run 37 or 41. But on these trucks that you see us running out of our shop with 37s, we're typically running 45 PSI in the front, 40 in the rear. That's how we're achieving a very good ride on road. And they still even work very well off-road at those tire pressures. But again, letting a little pressure out off-road is gonna make it much more comfortable. Now, moving on from there, the next option, we probably wanna say somewhere, I'd say $500 to $800. What is the best bang for the buck upgrade I can put on one of these Ram diesel four-wheel drive trucks? That is going to be an upgraded sway bar. So we have the Carli Torsion sway bar as well as the Thurn Fabrication soft ride sway bar. Both of those sway bars are going to be a lighter rate sway bar. If you look under the front of your truck, it is an over an inch diameter sway bar. And what that means when one tire travels up or down from the other, it throws the cab around, making for a very poorly perceived ride, right? So when you're in your truck, you hit the driveway, you're like, good Lord, that was terrible just pulling into the gas station. A lot of that is just your sway bar throwing the truck around. So it's not so much the fact that your suspension springs are very stiff, which they are, but the sway bar just makes it so much dramatically worse because it throws the cab around. Going with a lighter rate sway bar is going to smooth that out. And again, at a price point at this current time, somewhere between $500 or $800, that is going to be, in my opinion, the best bang for your buck for ride quality improvement. And it will work on stock application trucks, level trucks, even other brand lift kits. A lot of times there's a lot of compatibility there to just go with a softer rate sway bar. Now with these sway bars, I've noticed an uptick on online comments that the torsion sway bars aren't good for towing, things like that. That's kind of a fallacy. Essentially, the only time you're not going to want to run one of these lighter rate sway bars is with an in-bed camper. Now with that said, we have suspension packages for in-bed campers that include the sway bars, but that's a whole separate video. If you're interested in that, I have a video on my personal Super Duty explaining all the details there. But essentially, the torsion or soft ride sway bar are going to be an excellent fit for cheap ride quality improvement on all Ram 2500-3500 trucks. The next price range, I'd probably say would be $1,000 to $2,000. That's your budget. Again, you've got a Ram 2500-3500 truck, four-wheel drive, and you just want to improve the ride quality, driving around town, taking the kids to school, all that good stuff. What can you do? We would say that the best bang for your buck is going to be going with a soft ride spring and a tuned shock that goes with that. Occasionally a track bar and a few other options, but I'd say $1,000 to $2,000 would cover literally 94 to current Ram 2500 and 3500 trucks. You're going to want to run a spring and shock combination. The reason you're going to want to go with a spring and shock combination is because of the overall ride improvement is going to be twofold. Now, oftentimes you'll see a guy say, hey, just go to the auto parts store, get some Rancho shocks, throw it on there. It's going to improve the ride. It's not actually going to improve the ride. What a shock is going to do is it's going to control the overall front end or the overall suspension's movement, but it's not going to change the overall spring rate of that front end. So whether you're running a coil spacer or not and just changing the shock, you're going to still have that original stiffness of that OEM spring. That is going to translate to a much harsher ride. Now again, you can just change that shock, which may take a little bit of the edge off of it, but the overall harshness, when you hit a dip, things like that, and it sends you out of your seat, your Yeti is constantly spilling coffee in your cup holder, that is going to be spring rate. That is where we suggest going with a softer spring, a la what we have from Carli Suspension and Theron Fabrication. Both companies are going to offer both a softer spring as well as tuned shock options for these trucks, and that is just going to make for a much more comfortable and controlled ride. So another guy will say, hey, why don't I just run shock extenders with the soft ride springs? I've already bought, part store shocks and I don't want to change them. Problem is when you go with a softer spring, you do have to offer a higher level of control with the shock absorber to make for a better experience for you as a passenger or driver of the truck. Because again, just too soft is going to make it feel like grandma's Cadillac. Getting that proper tuned shock and spring combination in there is going to get you where you want to be for overall handling, ride quality improvement, and so on. One final thing to mention at that $1,000 to $2,000 price point, say you already bought a truck that has maybe a Carli leveling kit on it, Theron leveling kit, things like that, you want to improve the ride quality, go back to our original point, getting the torsion or soft ride sway bar, stacking that with the tuned shocks and springs, you're going to have a very nice riding package for, even if you had to buy it all at once, probably a low $2,000 mark, and that's going to ride really well. It's going to be very controlled. It's going to be much more comfortable around town, and I think you'd be very happy with the overall package. Pretty much from there, we'd say like the $2,500 mark and on, we have a ton of packages, right? So pretty much, if you're looking at that price point, I would click through our YouTube channel and find some specific videos on a truck that is your year, because we do some pretty deep dives on the different options and suspension systems that are available, because at that point, we can look at replacing all four corner springs, all four corner shocks, and we have a handful of other upgrades, new leaf springs, and all that good stuff. But we want to do a very simple video detailing, again, $0 to $2,000 of upgrades for your Ram 2500, 3500 truck that's going to yield a little bit better ride quality. Now, for the YouTube commenters, yes, if you are maxing your payload 99.9% of the time, don't touch it. Keep your tires riding like a covered wagon and enjoy. But for those of us who really just love driving these trucks around town, these are going to be some very simple upgrades. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Give us a call, email us. We'll be happy to answer them. I hope you found this video enjoyable. It's something a little different from our normal. Give the video a like, and if you've not subscribed to the channel, give us a follow. We'll catch you guys on the next one.